week one preview. We'll be here to preview all of the games in week two, as well as recap the first week of the NFL season. We are here in the flesh, in person, for the first time in a long time. Welcome, everybody, to the first week preview and week cap of the NFL season.
Yeah, no, I am in Phoenix this week, so we have a little bit of a makeshift studio, and I think we made it work. I'm sitting in a lawn chair right now, so we're a little bit more yard than brick right now, but we are not going to miss an episode. Whatever people say about us, you cannot say we aren't dedicated, especially when it comes to the first week of the NFL season. I feel like the offseason went by so fast that suddenly football was here, and I don't know if it's just because you're in a warmer climate or whatever. It just feels like it came so soon.
Yeah.
We're finally back.
Yeah, we're finally back. Weather's finally starting to get somewhat cool. It's finally below triple digits in Phoenix. And now we have football. Now we have pumpkin spice back at the local coffee shop. So the fall is here. We can take a breath of fresh air and recap these games. We had Thursday night football, Eagles and Cowboys. And we had some notable games in this. Cowboys get the win 24-20. We had notable drops from CeeDee Lamb as the highlight. But the highlight in this game for me was 6 seconds into the game. We had Jalen Carter spitting on the face of Dak Prescott. Gets fined $60,000 to start the NFL season. Immediately gets kicked out of the game.
Yeah, no, the start of this game was so cursed because you have the Philadelphia Eagles coming in off a Super Bowl, and you never know how a team is going to perform. They were kind of so to start the game, and you have Jalen Carter spitting on Dak Prescott, and then you have everyone in the pristine media, as you say, freaking out about it. Like, oh my God, how could Jalen Carter spit on a franchise quarterback? Like, give me a break. This is funny. We had everything we could want in this game. We had the Cowboys given hope in this one. We had CeeDee Lamb have his highs and his lows. And then we also got a weather delay. And as soon as they came back from the weather delay, I was like, watch neither of these teams score again.
And they don't.
Neither of them did. Neither of them did.
No. And then Saquon took a little bit for him to get going. A.J. Brown wasn't very utilized much in this game, but Will Shipley, of all people that was on the bingo card in this game, Will Shipley made some nasty runs for the Eagles. He was the main highlight in this game, but Cowboys had some opportunities that they failed, but ultimately Eagles get the win.
Yeah, Eagles get the win, and then also another unsung hero for Philadelphia, Jahan Dotson. One of the best games of his career coming out of nowhere. And then also with this game, what this kind of cemented for me is Kyle Shanahan is kind of put on this pedestal by the NFL media, But Nick Sirianni's absolutely destroyed by the media. He's run through the mud, where I feel like Nick Sirianni is everything that people have been saying that Kyle Shanahan is. Oh, look at how he can design a run game in his offense. Well, Nick Sirianni has actually been to the Super Bowl twice, and unlike Kyle Shanahan, he has beaten the Kansas City Chiefs, which has been the best dynasty since the Patriots, and now you get in another tough game where you're up against a divisional opponent and you kind of have to gut it out, and kind of came down to coaching in this one at the end of it.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with the Cowboys. Like, I wasn't expecting the Cowboys to play as well, but I like the addition of George Pickens for them. I think he's going to be really nice for them. Javonte Williams did a pretty good job in the running game for them. So Cowboys, I'm a little bit more optimistic moving forward with them, but it is week one, so we'll see how it all pans out. Speaking of early games, how about the Brazil game? Chargers and Chiefs. If you are in Brazil, you probably think that the next coming of Megatron is Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
Because this man went out and balled. He had 6 catches for, I want to say, 80 yards. Justin Herbert, they probably think is the second coming of Jesus at this point. But Chargers beat the Chiefs. And honestly, Chargers look pretty impressive. They got the new running back, Amarian Hampton, who looks to be pretty impressive. And then, I think the standout for me here was Quentin Johnston learned that catching footballs is the key to success.
Yeah, and this is going to be a tough year this year for the Kansas City Chiefs because they are about 4 points away last year from missing the playoffs. It's about 13-point differential. Last year they had a pretty low differential, and a lot of their games are kind of just beat them up, grind it out. And it seems like with the Kansas City Chiefs, again, we really don't have an offense with a lot of continuity. Now, do I think they'll miss the playoffs? At this point, no. It's too early to say, but you're coming into a division now that's hungry with Denver. The Raiders actually look pretty good, and Geno Smith can have his days there. So for the Chiefs, you're not really going to have any easy days in your division now, which really hasn't been the case for them, where I feel like they've been able to just take care of the Chargers. Well, now, instead of Anthony Lynn, we have Jim Harbaugh in that division. Now we have Sean Payton, and now we have Pete Carroll as well, which are all,
respectable
for the 2010s kind of goated head coaches.
100%, yeah. And I think for the Chargers, if they can keep their tough defense that they had last year, plus also get that running back that they've always historically drafted well, and Quentin Johnston learns to catch the football consistently, then I think the Chargers are going to give them trouble.
Yeah, and the Chargers will always kind of give you trouble in the regular season. Will they perform in the playoffs? I'm not counting on it, but it's definitely a step further, especially with them having one of the best defenses in the regular season last year. So Chiefs are going to have a tough road ahead of them if they want to take care of business.
Now, the real thing with Justin Herbert that I want to see is he started dating Madison Beer. So I think when you're dating, essentially, she's not a supermodel, but she might as well be. Is he going to have a different sort of aura that he's had since joining the league? I feel like we could be seeing a new Justin Herbert potentially.
Yeah, and we saw that kind of with Josh Allen, not to skip ahead, but him marrying and locking down Haley Steinfeld. It seemed like on Sunday night, it took him to a whole new level. Where
Yes.
we saw maybe one of the best games you'll ever get from Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And then we also saw probably the best game you'll ever see from a quarterback in Josh Allen, having one of the most ridiculous performances you've ever seen. You have everyone, well, we need a historic game in the second half from Josh Allen to overcome what Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are doing right now. And the Ravens, don't forget, they have had a tendency in the past couple of years to blow leads. Think back to 2 seasons ago where they blew, I think it was 3 double-digit leads in a row. And now they're kind of back to those same ways where Josh Allen absolutely willing the Bills with him, Keon Coleman, back to the top.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might as well cover the Sunday night game. This is now the 15th, 10-point second half blown lead for Jim Harbaugh in his tenure with the Ravens. It's the 4th time in NFL history that a team has lost a game when up 15 with 4 minutes left. So in this game with the Bills, ultimately, Josh Allen had one of those games where he was just basically Superman. And also, we had Derrick Henry. And like every year, my take has always been like, oh, well, Derrick Henry should fall off a cliff. I'm officially done with that take. I'm officially retiring that take forever. Derrick Henry is entering year 31 season, and he rushed for, I believe, 160 yards in this game. He looked like an absolute freight train, which he does every other year. But I'm officially done with that take. I think we're witnessing the greatest running back of all time at this point with Derrick Henry. Lamar had a great game, but it was Josh Allen in the second half going absolutely nuclear and probably the greatest Sunday night opener in the history of football.
Yeah, no, definitely one of the greatest Sunday night games. And this was a game that should have and could have gone to overtime, but it was only a 2-point game. But you have the Ravens again looking elite, but just blowing a lead. And then you had John Harbaugh's blown 15, 10-point second half leads.
Yeah. And teams, when the Ravens score over 40 points, there were 25-0 entering this game, and now they have officially fallen to the Bills. But Bills look really good. I'm worried about their defense, but if Josh Allen can continue his MVP run, then I think the Bills will be just fine. But let's move to the 1 o'clock slates. The Raiders beat the Patriots 20-13 in a tough, gritty game. Geno Smith throws for 362 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Brock Bowers has his game. Ashton Genty gets going. And the Patriots, I think, early on, they have Mike Vrabel. They have a new running back, a lot of new personnel. So I'm not overly worried about the Patriots, but both of these games were just kind of tough, gritty, get out with the win for the Raiders.
Yeah, and the tough thing with the Patriots is it is early on. You have a new head coach, so sometimes that can take up until like week 6 or 7 to really flush out the team. And you did add Stephon Diggs, but I'm still not completely sold on their weapons. So I feel like for this team, it's really going to take them until late October to get going. Where the Raiders, I feel like, are going to be the opposite, where Geno Smith is familiar with Pete Carroll. He has good weapons around him, and they'll probably be September Warriors and then fall off a cliff when we get to November.
I feel like that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Patriots did show to me, though, even though they didn't have a great second half, I think they've proven that their defense is going to be their glue. So if they can hold teams to, say, 15, 17 points a game, then I think they can still win some games, but their offense is definitely going to need some work moving forward. But then Lions and Packers. Jordan Love. Jordan, I believe in a thing called love. We had him. He played exceptional. And then we had Micah Parsons. Didn't play a lot. He had a back injury that he's overcoming, but Packers look like a wagon so far.
No, Packers look like a wagon, and it's not even just Micah Parsons, where Micah Parsons was that final piece they needed on that team where it looks like they're confident in their young talent. We saw both of their young linebackers show out in this game. They're
Hmm.
really able to control the running game, but the Packers defense looks like a legit top 10 defense, and when the Packers have a top 10 defense, that's typically when you see them in the Super Bowl. Especially, you brought up historically when they trade for an elite defensive player,
Hmm.
usually follows up with them making a Super Bowl. I believe it was Charles Woodson with Aaron Rodgers. Who was it with Brett Favre?
Reggie White.
Reggie White. There you go.
So Reggie White, Charles Woodson, and now Micah Parsons. And it's also his third year, which is also when Brett Favre won his Super Bowl and when Aaron Rodgers won his Super Bowl. There is some sort of voodoo magic with the Packers, it seems to be. So this might very well be their year. And if you watch the Brickyard and you're a fan of the show, you know that we called them to be 14-3. So it's looking pretty good so far. So far, they're on pace to go 17-0 based on their record. So
Yeah, they're on pace to go 17-0. We predicted them to go 14-3. And really, when you look in the NFC, like who else can you really confidently say that you're 100% sure that they could make it to the Super Bowl? The Eagles look like they'll be strong and consistent, but will they have the same wow factor? Then you also have the injury risk of any team trying to get back to the Super Bowl. And then after that, do you like the Lions without their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator? It's tough. It may take them until late in the year to get going. But for me, like the Packers seem like they should be the favorite in the NFC because the Niners are
already falling apart.
Already falling apart.
Yeah, the Niners are already falling apart. The Rams look like they have a lot of work to be done. And then I don't really NFC South, maybe it's the Bucks, but everybody else I don't believe in. So Packers seem like they're the most definite shot ultimately to at least, if nothing else, make the conference championship. But speaking of the Bucks and Falcons, another game that is arguably the game of the week. We had Baker Mayfield showing out. We had Michael Penix. Michael Penix made some great throws in this game. Bijan Robinson had a big 70-yard run to start the game as well. Falcons and Bucks. This looks like this is going to be a tight rivalry for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and the Falcons won both games last year, which is why I picked the Buccaneers to win because you had that absolutely heartbreaking game where I believe it was Darnell Mooney had the game-winning catch in the game of his life on Thursday Night Football. Then the Falcons proceeded to pretty much lose every single game, but I liked what I've seen from Michael Penix. He had a really good game on Sunday night last year versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So I definitely think the division will be between these two teams, but the Bucks have shown that they are here to stay even after Tom Brady. That Baker Mayfield is a worthy replacement for Tom Brady, even though he's not as good. And then Bucky Irving also showing that last year wasn't a fluke.
Yeah, not a fluke. Also, their rookie running back, wide receiver, he caught 2 touchdowns in this game. He looks like, I don't know what ends up happening with Chris Godwin. I know he's coming back from injury, but he looks like he's going to be able to fill in and be elite right away for them.
Yeah, if I was the Bucks, I would look to trade Chris Godwin as soon as possible for a wide receiver needy team.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of teams that would take him, and Bucks look good, but ultimately great win there. And then how about a game that was not so great? Let's talk about Bengals and Browns. Talk about a game where neither team wants to win. We had the Browns missing field goals. We had the Bengals mustering up 17. It's essentially the Patriots game in reverse where they finally get the win out of this, but Bengals did not look impressive. Surprise, surprise. It's September, Cincinnati. And then Cleveland, they had so many opportunities to win this game. They had, I believe, a 44-yard field goal at the end of the game to win the game that they miss in classic Cleveland Browns fashion. But two teams from Ohio that September not looking good so far.
Yeah, I mean, for the Bengals, what I said is if they win this game, the season is alive. But if they lose to the Browns, another sorry team that'll be picking at the top again in week one, the season's over. The Bengals got that message, and while it wasn't pretty, it wasn't what you want to see from the Cincinnati Bengals. At least they got a win in September, right? Like, that's the
Yes.
moral of the story. Just look at my phone, like, great. The Bengals actually did it in September, so they're not going to be 0-4. Maybe they'll be 1-5 heading into October. But
maybe they can get the win. I don't know what their schedule looks like week 2. We'll preview that later, but Bengals, I mean, can you just wake up in September? It's not that hard. I mean, you've had preseason, you've had all of offseason. I don't know why this happens every year with the Bengals, but maybe they wake up next week.
And then we have our, I guess, stupid ESPN headline where they say, was Daniel Jones having the best game for a quarterback of all time, Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen, or was it the Miami Dolphins being that bad? What do you think, Brick?
I think I think okay, the Dolphins had 45 yards of offense in the first half. They were basically scoreless until about 6 minutes to the end of the game. Colts absolutely eviscerated the Dolphins. We were not very high on the Dolphins entering the season, but after what I saw in week 1, Tyreek Hill looks like he's past his prime now. Jalen Waddle looks like he's enjoyed way too much in and out, or wherever they have there in Miami. He looks like he's gained like 50 pounds. And then Tua, not that he was ever an amazing quarterback, but I think those concussions are starting to go to his decision making. He had a bunch of turnovers. He had a fumble. He had 2 picks. A complete nightmare of a game for the Dolphins, as much as you could possibly ask. This is a game where if I was the owner for the Dolphins, I would have fired Mike McDaniels immediately because you just can't lose to that. Because you made Daniel Jones look like the second coming of Jesus at this point. He had 7 he's the first quarterback since the 70s to score on 7 consecutive drives to start his career with the Colts.
It's insane.
Yes, and now if you watch the preview for week 1, I was not very high on anybody that had Daniel Jones as their quarterback, but Daniel Jones might be proving me wrong. Maybe he has a Sam Darnold-esque year like we saw last year. Maybe he wins comeback player of the year after sucking for 6 years, but Colts, I mean, we'll see if they're interesting. They snapped their 11-game opening day losing streak, but I think this leans more on the Dolphins for me.
Yeah, it has to lean on the Dolphins, especially you had Rex Ryan come out and he was completely ripping Mike McDaniel. He's like, I don't know what they call him, Mike McNerd, Mike Mc, I like his feet, or whatever. But he's like, clearly the guys on this team don't respect him. They don't have any heart. And we were early on this Mike McDaniel train last year and the previous year, and like, I don't actually think he's this amazing head coach or wizard that everyone thinks he is, because how can you have such a fall off without Tua of all people? And now Tua has concussions and he's paid. He's got his money. So you already went out there and paid Tua. So you're locked in with this guy for the next few years. And this is a team that needs to win every single game that's above 54 degrees Fahrenheit, or they're not going to win any. So if you're blowing games like this to the Colts, clearly there's a problem with the Miami Dolphins offense. And it's probably going to end in Mike McDaniel being fired sometime this year, which we predicted. And then for the Colts, Shane Steichen he always keeps it interesting, but I feel like teams will eventually figure out what Daniel Jones is doing. But this Dolphins team just doesn't seem like they care at all. And honestly, it should be a massive amount of shame for the Miami Dolphins that they made a quarterback as bad as Daniel Jones look this good.
Now I'm scared. Like, what happens when they face the Bengals or the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs or the like all of these other teams? Like Daniel Jones, by no means is what he looked like in Week 1. I think this is a Week 1 product, but the fact, like, if he can do this to the Dolphins, then what can these other guys do? I think the record is 7 touchdowns and like 540 yards. What will Joe Burrow do? What will Patrick Mahomes do when they face this pathetic Dolphins team? That is what I'm excited to see.
Josh Allen's going for the record. He's going for 8 touchdowns in a game.
8 touchdowns and 700 yards. You heard it here first on the Brickyard. RIP the Dolphins. Talk about another terrible game. We had the Cardinals and Saints. The Saints team in which we have on pace to going 1-16 if you followed our NFC South preview. And it came down to the wire. Ultimately, it came down to a dropped touchdown at the end of the game for the Saints, or else we potentially go to overtime and potentially the Saints win this game. This is a game then week 1, like, congratulations, Cardinals, you win this game, but Kyler did not look great. Apparently, he was sick entering this game, and unlike Michael Jordan, is not very good with the flu, apparently. And the Saints, like, Spencer Rattler did as much as he could, but this is not a great win for the Cardinals. And the Saints, like, hey, maybe they're competitive. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe they'll be competitive. I'm not buying it. I feel like the Saints are just going to be one of those teams that are going to be close to winning every single game, but just won't get it done, because at the end of the day, you're going after a franchise quarterback, and whoever you have starting this season is probably going to be a rotating cast of quarterbacks and some. Maybe they'll call Josh Freeman out of retirement if you want to go for a deep pull there. But I just don't think that this is going to be a good Saints team. And the Cardinals, I thought this would be a game where James Conner would have 3 touchdowns, maybe 4 total, but just was not the case. And then at least we had a Marvin Harrison sighting. I guess he looked
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It looks like he's a little bit better. He's a little bit bulkier this time around. I'd like to see Marvin Harrison be effective. Trey McBride got it done this game as well, but Cardinals need to improve. And then Saints, they continue to, work towards the #1 pick.
The game of the week.
And then game of the week. How about the revenge game? Justin Fields' revenge against the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers' revenge against the Jets. Who comes out on top? Aaron Rodgers turns back the clock. 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. We see vintage Aaron get the win for the Steelers.
Yeah, and it was good to see because the Steelers really didn't even have a run game, and I feel like they haven't really been able to get the run going till later in the season. But their offense was about as sharp as I've seen the Steelers' offense. You had some solid shovel passes from Aaron Rodgers, some solid trick plays, and then Aaron Rodgers, believe it or not, actually looked like he wanted to be there.
Yeah.
Actually looked like he was inspired to play for Mike Tomlin. So if this is the Aaron Rodgers we're going to get, don't expect him to take them far in the playoffs. But this looks like a team that can actually go far in the regular season. And I'm a little bit worried, obviously, that their defense allowed 32 points to the Jets, but it's week 1. Sometimes that takes time to get going, but it was nice to see Jalen Ramsey out there getting the game-winning tackle for them.
Yeah, and they also signed Jabril Peppers later on. I think for the Jets, like Justin Fields played fairly well. Garrett Wilson had a great game. Breece Hall had a good game as well. So Jets have some talent on offense. So it's okay that they gave up a little bit too much in this game, but great game overall. Aaron Rodgers looked effective, and this is probably the best offense I've seen from the Steelers since Big Ben was in town.
Yeah, this is the best offense Aaron Rodgers has probably been a part of in a long time.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have DK. Now you have Jalen Warren there. Pat Fryermuth is still effective. So
drafted another tight end who looked good this game too.
yeah, so I think the Steelers are going to be fun. We'll see if they ultimately are competing for the division, but I think good start overall for them.
And then we have breaking news in from the Brickyard. This is from Sunday, so maybe it's not breaking, but Russell Wilson still sucks.
Yes. Turns out when he leaves a organization for a worser organization, looks like he still sucks. Who would have thought? Hasn't been good in Denver, wasn't good in Pittsburgh, and now in the Giants, he is somehow worse.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, but I'm stunned. Ultimately, this game, just like in the past 4 years with Russell Wilson, it feels like everything he does is hard on offense.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you see a couple of good balls here and there, but 17 for 38. He throws for an interception. Their offense musters 6 points in this game, just completely abysmal. And then the Commanders, I wasn't overly impressed with the Commanders' offense in this game, but Deebo Samuel gets a score. Looks like he'll be utilizing that offense fairly well. And then, running game, Austin Eckler, he got going a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I'm fine because the Giants, on paper, do have a really good defense. And for the Commanders, you went out there and you got the win, which is all that matters. And you still had the Giants to 6 points. And the one thing I want to mention is we did see some controversy on X in the NFL community where you should have kept Danny DeVito, Jackson Dart, and Jameis Winston together instead of keeping Russell Wilson just for the vibes. And people are like, how could you say that when Russell Wilson's a legitimate NFL starter and you just want to keep these 3 guys together for the vibes? And honestly, if you're going to suck either way and Russell Wilson's not going to be that much better, you might as well have fun where Russell Wilson just sucks all the air out of the room, where during preseason we saw him like standing on the sideline alone, where we saw Jackson Dart feeding Jameis Winston W's. We saw Tommy DeVito getting involved, and it actually looked like a fun atmosphere, and then you just see Russ like
just being all stoic and stretching. And wasn't that one of the things he did in Denver? Wasn't he stretching for like 6 hours on a flight one time?
Yeah.
On the way back from Europe? Yeah. I don't know what happened to Russell Wilson. I don't know if the Illuminati took a hold of him. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if the Monstars sapped him of his powers. But Russell Wilson, he is no longer a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I think they Avril Lavigne him.
They probably did.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Giants, not so great. And then the battle of the kitty cats, the Jaguars and Panthers. Jaguars looked pretty good. Travis Etienne delivered. We saw BTJ got the first win for Liam Cohen.
Yeah.
Duval County.
Duval.
26-10. And Bryce Young, I had a lot of hope going into the season. Like maybe Bryce Young's going to turn a new leaf. Not so much.
Yeah, and do you think that's the Jaguars' defense being better this year, just week one, or it's just Bryce Young looking completely lost again?
I think it's Bryce Young is just not the guy,
Yeah.
frankly. I think maybe they might have missed. Maybe it should have been CJ Stroud after all. Who would have thought?
Yeah, and it could have been CJ Stroud, but it was nice to see the Jaguars actually have production on offense and not everything look extremely hard. And we have some of these coaches who come in, be super awkward in their press conferences, maybe be a little bit off putting. We saw this with Nick Sirianni, but you never know with Liam Cohen. So I could definitely see him actually making the Jaguars offense fun, maybe a little bit legitimate, where Doug Peterson just seemed like he was another old coach stuck in his ways a little bit, sucks the air out of the room, where now you have a younger guy who can maybe, I don't know, relate to his quarterback, unlike Doug Peterson.
Yeah, and with Liam Cohen, like we'll give him credit. Last year with the Bucks, Baker Mayfield, most touchdowns in the league, had the most passing yards. Baker Mayfield, he bounced around the league a little bit, went to Tampa, was successful. He had the best season of his career under Liam Cohen as his offensive coordinator. So maybe he can unlock a new level of Trevor Lawrence. We don't know.
Yeah, and he looks like he might be a better coach than Dave Canales. Even though Dave Canales, I'll give him credit. Last year, he got everything he could out of Bryce Young.
He did. I just don't think Bryce Young is the guy, unfortunately, for them. But moving on to the next game, we have Broncos and Titans. Um, Tough, gritty game. Cam Ward's debut. I can't necessarily say Cam Ward played poorly in this game. I think a lot of the faults on offense goes to their wide receiver core.
Yeah.
I believe they had 8 drops in this game across all their wide receivers. Running game couldn't really get going, and that Broncos defense is no joke either.
No, the Broncos defense isn't a joke either. Cam Ward was making some nice passes. He was hitting guys
Yeah.
in the hand, and then also the Titans' offensive line looked shaky. He was under pressure, running around for his life a little bit. But I liked what I saw from Cam Ward coming with the Tennessee Titans. So maybe this is a team that's gonna have to shell out and pay too much for someone like Chris Godwin midseason this year. But if
Yeah.
we get Cam Ward some help, I do think he can be a good quarterback. He was making good throws, making NFL throws against a good tough Broncos defense, and then Bo Nix was also struggling a little bit in this game as well.
Yeah, early seasons. I think Bo Nix will be fine overall, but I want to see what their running back can do. They didn't really utilize RJ Harvey all too much. They kind of leaned more on J.K. Dobbins. I think as the season progresses, we'll start to see more of their rookie kind of come into his own. But overall, I'm impressed with the Broncos defense, unimpressed with the Titans receiver core so far.
Yeah, I mean Titans. It's going to be a tough uphill battle for them, but you may have another high draft pick where you can get a receiver.
Yeah. And then we go to the NFC West. We had Brock Purdy and the 49ers get the win over the Seahawks. But in this game, like you want to talk about a win that hurt, right? George Kittle gets hurt. Brock Purdy is out for multiple weeks. And then
Jake Moody dies.
and Jake Moody is gone. Jake Moody is gone. He was a 3rd-round pick in his draft. He was the highest drafted kicker since 2016. They could have had Noah Sewell. They could have had Puka Nacua. They could have had Chad Ryland, who is nails for the Cardinals at this point. But instead, they take Jake Moody, who has averaged 67% of his field goals over the last 2 years. He's fallen off a complete cliff, and now he's working at Walmart.
Yeah, no, Jake Moody, definitely don't debate anyone in public in San Francisco. It won't go well for you.
Oh, the Niners. It was tough. I wasn't overly impressed with what I saw from Sam Darnold in Seattle either. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm not overly sold on either. But these are 2 teams that I don't think are going to be competing for the playoffs at this point.
No, especially what we're going to have Mac Jones for the 49ers now.
He starts next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, our biggest concern when we were reviewing the Niners is, are they going to stay healthy? Because this is one of the oldest teams in the NFL at this point.
Yeah.
And now George Kittle is banged up. You have Brock Purdy.
Signs before too.
Yeah, he's showing signs of regression. Keep in mind, he's been in the league now for almost a decade now. So I feel like we're starting to see the end of the Niners. Plus, we have Juwan Jennings, who's also banged up. Like
their entire defense has always been in and out of the lineup too. Trey Greenlaw is gone.
Ufunga's gone.
Ufunga's on the Broncos now too.
Yeah, so they're losing players left and right, and now they're banged up. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for them. Speaking of NFC West teams, though, Rams get a tough, gritty win against the Texans. Matt Stafford now has 60,000 passing yards. And yeah, tough, gritty game for this team here.
Yeah, this game, there's not much to say. This is just week one at its finest, where week one is typically seen as preseason plus. And for both of these teams, it's pretty embarrassing. Really, the only big news that came out of this game is, did you see the fight that took place in the stands?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, a lady walks out, her face is completely covered in blood. And then you have multiple Rams fans getting kicked out of this game. They have to go to the hospital after. So I didn't even know Rams fans cared that much, but apparently.
Apparently, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the air is different in SoFi this year. We don't know. Yeah, not a lot to say about this game. Matt Stafford, 60,000, 10th quarterback to do that all time. That's cool, but this is just week one at its finest.
Week one at its finest. Also, week one at its finest. There's two coaches that have blown 10-point leads in their debut. Both of them with the Chicago Bears. One Matt Nagy, one Ben Johnson.
Oh my God. I was texting you throughout this game because they have their first drive, looks great.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams completes his first 10 throws. Their defense looks really good. And JJ McCarthy looks like he is the second coming of Zach Wilson in the first half. He's completing, 40% of his throws. Then the second half comes around. Bears offense falls off a cliff. And then in the fourth quarter, JJ McCarthy makes some nice throws, scores, gets a couple of touchdowns, and then ultimately comebacks and beats the Bears. You want to talk about a game that the Bears lost? This was classic Chicago Bears. This is a team that is the NFC version of the New York Jets. What can go wrong will go wrong for the Chicago Bears. And you want to talk about week one with a new head coach immediately instilling fear into your fan base? Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson looked green on that sideline. He did not look well there. And then you know what makes me sick with the Chicago Bears? Anytime they call D Swift's name, I mean, you want to talk about people where you have an addiction and you need to seek help. If you draft D Swift in fantasy football, like
No.
that's a man who will give you hope. He'll have three incredible games, but after week seven, week eight, he just completely falls off a cliff. And then Caleb Williams also can't help but throw the ball at people's feet in the
Mm-hmm.
second half, where he has open receivers like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I just threw it at your foot? And then, you can see the difference in coaching and why they extended Remy Malik, who made Sam Darnold look good. I'm like, okay, well, if the Vikings can do that with Sam Darnold, what can they do with JJ McCarthy, who I wasn't too high on because his job was literally handing the ball off at Michigan. But in the second half, he was able to overcome a terrible interception that he threw. His offensive line was repeatedly breaking down, and then he throws two touchdown passes. I mean, that shows a lot of resilience, especially from this Vikings team who went on multiple years where they were winning by one possession, fourth quarter comebacks. That eventually has to come down to coaching. So you want to talk about a guy who maximizes talent. Also, shout out to Andrew Van Ginkel for making incredible plays. I mean, this guy, as soon as he went to the Vikings last year, I loved him in Miami. He was kind of the heart and soul of that defense. Defense hasn't been the same since he left, but dude looks like a Viking, looks the part, and then he was making big play after big play on third down.
Yeah, I think the Vikings defense was super impressive in this game, shutting down the Bears. JJ McCarthy showed that he has a little bit of tenacity. He's the first quarterback since Steve Young to overcome a 10-point deficit as well. So I'm impressed with what I saw from them. I think the Vikings, they're going to be fun this year. I don't know whether they're going to be in the playoffs, but I think they're definitely going to be fun.
They still have a lot of weapons, but that has to be tough with the Bears. And then it also begs the question where there's the argument, does the term generational talent get thrown around way too loosely now, where we saw it labeled with Trevor Lawrence, we saw it labeled with Caleb Williams, but we didn't see it with Josh Allen. We didn't see it with Lamar Jackson coming out of college.
Yeah, and it sucks because I see what the media sees in Caleb Williams, because I see in the first quarter of this game, I'm like, okay, he's completing all his passes. It looks like he's getting the ball out quickly now, like great. And then when he needs to improvise, he's able to pick up first downs with his legs. Like I see the talent there, but I also feel like this is a guy that still is very much a raw prospect, and he is going to have those errors. He had a bunch of wide open throws that he missed completely. It feels like he doesn't have a lot of touch with his throws either. He's throwing nothing but fastball. So I'm not entirely sure if he is going to be this guy, the prince that is promised in this case.
Yeah, and the biggest red flag for a quarterback for me is when when you come out, the first drive, get a touchdown, then struggle the rest of the game. Because what's the first drive? It's pretty much scripted
Yes.
all week, and you practice that drive, which is great. But he ends up rushing for the touchdown, and then you pretty much go until the fourth quarter, only scoring 10 points until the last drive.
Yeah, it was not great. And then just like the Bears had all the momentum. They go to pick six. I'm like, okay, this is about to be a blowout. Then you look at the scoreboard and it's only 17-6 at this
Yeah.
point. And then ultimately the Vikings come back, but not a great sight for the Bears. Bears, I think we're seeing the same old Bears again.
Yeah, but overall, it was a fun week one, but it was very much a week
It
one.
was a week one, but week one was great. We got Sunday night football, which was excellent. We saw the Packers come into their own, but week two is upon us as well. We move on. We preview these games here. Tomorrow we have Commanders and Packers in Green Bay. Packers are favored at 3.5. And I honestly, I don't think I'm going to be betting against the Packers for the foreseeable future. So I like this game a lot. I'm going to take the Packers to cover. I think they ultimately win. I'll say 27-21.
Yeah, 27-21 is a good score. I will go with the Packers as well. I will take the Commanders to cover because I do think this will be a field goal game. I see more 27-24, but the Commanders last week versus the Giants, it looked like they struggled a little bit. That Packers defense looks really good. Packers also looking to make a statement versus the team that made the conference championship last year, especially being healthy. Now you have your top receiver in Matthew Golden. Look for the Packers to have a big game at home in their first home game of the season.
I love it. Staying in the NFC North, we have Lions hosting the Chicago Bears, and the Lions are favored at 6.5. Lions had a really tough game against the Packers in week one. I think they bounce back. There's a lot of people betting against Dan Campbell. I will take the Lions to beat the Bears.
Yeah, I'll take the Lions to beat the Bears as well, especially with what I saw from Caleb Williams that last game. They really struggled on offense, and while Jared Goff does throw some balls up for you to get, I still think the Lions will be able to do it. Dan Campbell was also Ben Johnson's mentor, so we'll kind of get to see the first matchup of Dan Campbell versus a former head coach. And for me, I think Dan Campbell's going to go for the throw, especially since Ben Johnson tried to poach pretty much all of their other coaches from that staff. And there has to be some beef there.
I think there's definitely some beef there. And plus, I just think the Lions are a better team overall. People are betting against Amon Ra, who's proven, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. Had a good game, but not a great game in week one. And I think ultimately they come back and bounce back.
Yeah, and the Packers last week, they are kind of trying to set themselves up to be that great regular season team in the NFC this year, where the Packers, or where the Lions, are going to be that team that kind of probably hovers under the radar. People overlook them a little bit. They get into a wild card spot, and then they amp it up in the playoffs.
Yeah. And then this will be a fun game. In Miami, we have the Patriots. Now, Patriots and Dolphins are historically close. Dolphins are favored at 1.5 at home. I don't know why. After what I saw in week one for the Dolphins, I don't think they deserve to be picked whatsoever. If they again have 45 yards in the first half, Patriots defense is no joke either. I think their defense is better than that of the Colts. And if Daniel Jones can be the second coming of Jesus, then maybe Drake May is the second coming of Nazareth, for all I know. But I will take the Patriots in this game. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout necessarily, but I will take the Patriots to win. We'll say 20-10.
What's your over under? Because I feel like 42.5 is a lot. And I know Miami gets 3 points for being at home. So they're essentially picking the Patriots to be 2.5 point favorites in this one.
Yeah, and that's valid. I mean, what do we see from the Dolphins? Look like the worst team in the history of the NFL in week one. And I just don't think this team has any heart. I don't think they believe in Mike McDaniels. And meanwhile, on the Patriots side, yes, they fell to the Raiders, and yes, they had some missed opportunities, but I don't think they played poorly in week one. So I think they come back, and I think they get their first win of the season.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's going to be more of a question of how long is it going to take to fire Mike McDaniel for the Dolphins? Because if you have 4 bad losses in September, he really hasn't earned the right or respect of the team to want to keep him and see how it's going to play out.
I think by week 7, if they start out 1-6, I think you let them go at this point. Because like, what's the point? I mean, Tua's already paid. You probably made a mistake there. Tyreek Hill is not a team captain. Maybe he gets traded this year. Jalen Waddle looks like he's lost himself a little bit. So really the only thing on that offense that I can believe in somewhat is Devon Achane at this point.
Yeah, and it's also for Miami. I feel like they need to trade Tyreek Hill while he still has value.
Yeah.
Because last year he looked like he was slowing down. His first time in a while where he hadn't had 1,000 yard season, I believe, in like 7 years for him, where he had less than 1,000. So you really have to consider trading him. And then outside of Tyreek Hill, you don't have an offense because now Jalen Waddle looks like a bust, and you just paid him too. So now you're strapped for cash with Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, three guys who are not performing up to their deals.
Yeah, and Tyreek Hill also hasn't had a catch over 30 yards in over a year at this point. We're talking about a guy that in Kansas City was perpetually getting 30-yard catches several times a game, it felt like.
Mr. 13 seconds.
Yeah, Mr. 13 seconds. And now he's a little bit older now. He's been in the league a long time, over a decade at this point. So I think you got to trade him while he's hot. Like, there's plenty of teams. The Titans could certainly use Tyreek Hill at this point. So get rid of him while you can, ultimately.
Then we move on. Another battle of the Cats. The Jaguars faced the Panthers last week, and now they follow that up going to Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, for some reason, is favored at home by 3.5 points. So basically a half point when you consider that 3 point push. The over under is 48.5. Do you see this being a high scoring game? And what do you think? What Bengals team do you think we're going to get?
It's still September, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm going to pick the Jaguars in this game. I think ultimately the Bengals are going to struggle offensively for a little bit here. The Jags, they impressed me in week one. I think with BTJ into the mix now, Travis Hunter looked relatively effective in week one, and then Travis Etienne as well. He played well. So with the Bengals defense can't stopping a nosebleed either. I think ultimately, I think the Jags are going to get the win. I think they could be September Warriors potentially. Meanwhile, for the Bengals, it's going to take until October for them to wake up, sadly.
Yeah, and I think also Trevor Lawrence can be good. While he'll never look like someone like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson for that matter, he has shown that he can be an elite quarterback in the league. I don't think he has it to take you far in the playoffs, but overall, I do think this could be the year where he's an effective regular season quarterback, especially against the Bengals. They really don't have a defense at this point in September. It's a new defensive coordinator, and I like what I saw from the Jaguars offense, especially from BTJ last week. So give me the Jaguars in this one. I'll take them to win 24-10.
I'll rock with that bet. And then we have NFC East battle, Cowboys hosting the Giants, and Russell Wilson is starting in this game. Cowboys are favored at 5.5, over under of 44.5. This is a game where I take not only the Cowboys spread, but I also take the under in this game because this offense for the Giants is going to be abysmal until they start Jameis Winston. And then on the Cowboys side, like I was fairly impressed with what I saw against the Eagles defense, right? You still have, CeeDee Lamb. I think he comes back with the vengeance in week two. Plus, you have George Pickens. I liked what I saw from Javonte Williams against that Eagles defense. So I think we're looking at a game where I think, plus also the Cowboys have won like what, 10 consecutive games against the Giants as
They've
well.
dominated them. So if they lose this game to the Giants, that is a huge red flag for them.
Huge red flag. I think Cowboys get the win. Giants, I'm worried about this team, very much so.
Yeah, and then also for the Giants, who's going to be what?
Who is going to be the POTW of this week, player of the week this week? If we're talking about the Cowboys, I'm going to take the easy bet here. I'll take CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he had 4 drops. Last year, totally had 7 drops. So I saw him, ultimately train. He came into the facility on their off day and caught over 250 balls. So I think he's ready to go. He'll be ready to work. So I'll take CeeDee Lamb as the player of the week.
Yeah, if we're going Cowboys and staying with that, I will go with George Pickens. I think Pickens is a guy who will whine and cry a lot if he doesn't get the ball. He's definitely someone who's a diva. So I can see the Giants really trying to contain CeeDee Lamb with everything they have. So give me George Pickens to have a breakout game for them, but it won't be Russell Wilson, that's for sure.
It's not going to be Russ, unfortunately. Now we go to Tennessee. Tennessee is hoisting the Rams. Rams are favored at 5.5, over under of 41.5. Cam Ward, I think he looked relatively good in his first game. However, with the Rams, I just think with the better coaching scenario, you have Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. I will take the Rams to win. However, I think the Titans are going to be competitive. I think ultimately I'll still take the Rams to cover, but I think this is going to be like a 21-14 type game.
Yeah, it should be a competitive game. The Titans, if they can catch the ball, that would definitely help a lot. But overall, I think the Rams are going to take it nice and easy versus these NFC South teams. You got your win versus the Texans, which is a much tougher defense and front seven than this Tennessee Titans team. So I do think that'll alleviate a little bit of pressure, and the Rams will actually be able to put up some points this game.
For sure. Then we have this game. If we had a turd bowl of the week, I would pick this one. We have Mac Jones for the Niners and taking on the Saints. 49ers are favored at 3.5 on the road. And Spencer Rattler, Mac Jones, this is not a game that will be on primetime, thankfully. Niners, I still believe that they have enough talent. They have the coaching mismatch. I still take them to win this game, but this is going to be like 14-10.
It could be. This is one of those like bad games though that you could see a ridiculous game from Mac Jones where he throws like 3 touchdowns, has 2 fumbles and 3 interceptions, and then Spencer Rattler has the game of his life where you have a deflated already 49ers team because Brock Purdy is out right after you paid him. George Kittle is out, and then you have a Saints team that really has nothing to lose. So I definitely think the two teams are both turds, but it could be one of those games where it's oddly fascinating.
Yeah, I could see that potentially happening. I mean, I think Mac Jones is happy being a backup though at this point in his life. So I think I'll take the Niners to win, but this could be maybe it won't be as bad as we think.
No, there should be certain games where the NFL just looks at it and they're like, you know what? If you want to do coke, have at
Yeah,
it.
do it. Give them all they need. You know what? Maybe they go back to the 40s. They give them meth as well. Who cares?
Hell yeah, let's go.
And then we go to the Chapel of MetLife. That is the right. The New York Jesus Jets. They are hoisting the Bills after the Bills had one of the greatest Sunday night football games of all time. Josh Allen they might be praying to Josh Allen in this game for all we know. But Bills are favored at 6.5. I easily take the Bills in this game. Was impressed with what I saw with Justin Fields in week one, but it is week one. Give me the Bills.
Yeah, and I will take the Bills in this game, but I'll say flukier things have happened, especially with the New York Jets and the Buffalo Bills in the past. You had that infamous Monday Night Football game on
Yes.
9/11 where we were together. We were together last year on 9/11, as well as this year. So I do think the Jets were able to put up points as well as the Ravens were against the Bills. The Bills do not have good corners, which has been their weakness. So I
That is
think they'll
true.
be able to win. But I do think that this is going to be a fun, competitive game similar to the Steelers and Jets last week. So I definitely think the Jets can give them a scare because the Bills are like, well, Justin Fields, Aaron Glenn, is it good?
I think the 46.5, I would hammer the over in that, honestly.
For sure.
Especially because the Bills defense did not look impressive in week one. Granted, they are facing the Ravens, but the Jets have enough firepower on offense that I think they can put up points. So I'll take this over ultimately. I think the Bills win, but the over of 46.5 seems like a lock to me. And then how about Seahawks and Steelers? Steelers at Acrisure, 2.5 point favorites. Currently, the Seahawks are technically favorites if we think about the home swing.
Yeah, no, you get 3 points for being at home. So the Seattle Seahawks are favorites, which is absolutely bizarre to me, especially with them only putting up 13 points versus the San Francisco 49ers. I still think the Steelers defense is better than the 49ers this year. But give me the Steelers in this one. I like what I saw from Aaron Rodgers last week. He came out, had 4 touchdown passes, and typically he's terrible in week one, which
Yeah.
is surprising for Aaron Rodgers. The biggest surprise for me with the Steelers last week is that Aaron Rodgers actually had a good week one, where if you go back through the past 3 years, typically he's bad.
Yeah, he's had like 6 consecutive. I mean, even his MVP years, he had horrible week ones.
Yeah.
But apparently, the Jets, he had it circled on his calendar. He wanted the vengeance. So give me the Steelers in this game. I think they get the win, and I think their defense will look better as well.
Upset alert. First one of the week.
Yeah. And then we have Ravens overwhelming favorites, 11.5 against Joe Flacco and the Browns.
Yeah, it's mostly going to be, do you think they'll cover the 11 and a half? That's really the only question. And then do you think 44.5? Well, the Ravens should get 44 on their own versus this team.
I would take the over. I mean, the Browns they still put up 16. I think the Ravens put up at least 30. So that alone will cover the over. So I will take the over in this game. I'm not going to touch the spread necessarily, but I do think I would predict the Ravens cover.
Yeah, I'll take the Ravens to cover, so that'll be an interesting one as well. Will they be able to hit that 11 and a half over? Let us know what you think in the comments. And then I'll let you go on this game because this is a probably very weird matchup for you. We have the Broncos at the Colts. Colts have their second home game in a row to start the season. Denver is a 1.5 point favorite. Over unders 42.5. After Broncos kind of a clunky game versus the Titans, and Daniel Jones has the greatest game of his life.
I'm going to call this game what no one else will call it. This is the Matthew Berry trap game. Because if you watch Matthew Berry, he's like, make sure you pick up Daniel Jones immediately because he had, the greatest game of any quarterback in week 1 in NFL history. This is a trap game. The Broncos defense is elite. I don't think we see the Colts scoring 7 consecutive drives. Even if the Broncos offense struggles offensively, I still think the Broncos get the win in this game. 42.5, I would take the under in this game, but Broncos defense is going to overwhelm them. I think they can contain Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman as well. So I'll still take the Broncos, but I don't believe in Daniel Jones. He's never given me any reason to believe in Daniel Jones. So give me the Broncos.
Yeah, and I'll take the Broncos as well in this game. I think this will be a good test for the Colts, especially since they're going up against a tough defense. And then just the coaching matchup alone, I'll take Sean Payton. But I feel like this is going to be a really interesting matchup, and we're going to learn a lot about both these teams. Where if the Broncos lose this game, is it over? Will everyone be freaking out? Sure, maybe. But will the Colts be September Warriors? Maybe start out 3-0 and then finish 5-12. I wouldn't rule that out either.
I wouldn't rule that out either. I wouldn't be surprised if the Colts win this game, but especially if we saw what happened with Sam Darnold with Carolina years ago.
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of it. We saw the Saints last year put up the most points in NFL history through 3 games, finish 5-12. So stranger things have happened. Let me actually pick the Colts. I'll take the upset.
Yeah. Is this like with Daniel Jones last week? Is that the best like resurgence we've ever seen from anyone when we're talking about like Geno Smith? Or we're talking about Sam Darnold going to another team, or would you take maybe someone like Fitzpatrick on the Bucks? Is really going to be the conversation where he had back-to-back 500-yard games because we haven't seen what Daniel Jones did before by anyone.
Yeah, I've never seen him play as well. He looked great in week 1. I'm not going to lie. So, tougher defense. I think it's a lot tougher than that of the pipsqueak Miami Dolphins defense, but I'll take the Colts to upset. I think it's early, and I think stranger things have happened. So you've talked me into this upset for the Colts.
All right, he changed his mind. I have the Broncos. He has the Colts, and then we move to Glendale, Arizona, where we are right now in Phoenix, and then we have the Carolina Panthers coming to town. And you want to talk about the turd bowl of the week? This might actually be worse to watch than the 49ers and the Saints, where the 49ers and Saints is hilariously bad, but this might just be, guys, we need an intervention.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the Cardinals are favored at 6.5. 43.5 is the over-under. I'm going to take the Panthers to cover in this game because if you're going to struggle against the Saints, who are you? Like, that is literally the bare minimum team that you can compete against. The Panthers, Bryce Young, I know he'll probably struggle as well, but so will Kyler. Yeah. So will Marvin Harris. Like, this Cardinals team, if they couldn't wake up for the Saints, what makes me think they're going to wake up for the Panthers? 6.5 point spread. The Cardinals do not deserve by any means. This is a game where I see it being like 14-10, 17-14, wherever you want to put it. But I would hammer the under in this game, and I would take the Panthers to cover in this game. I'll take the Cardinals to win, but not by much.
Yeah, and I'll actually take the Panthers to win. I think the Cardinals are going to be looking at them. You had a nice lucky matchup versus the Saints where maybe the Panthers actually went up against a tough team. They have Trevor Lawrence, and the Panthers get to have the opportunity to say, look, man, that guy over there can't see over his offensive line or throw it over the middle of the field. He's allegedly, dealing with the flu? Who's getting sick in Arizona? It's too hot. You immediately sweat out any fever that you have. So I'm not buying that either. So give me the Panthers in the upset in this game, but I will hammer the under. I don't think they're going to break 43.5 points in this game.
I don't either. Then we have the Super Bowl rematch in Arrowhead. Surprised this isn't on primetime because I've seen what the other primetime games are. This would be a great primetime game. But Chiefs, typically after a loss, Andy Reid has one of the highest records in all of NFL history. I'll take the Chiefs to win this game. Eagles, both of these teams could be potentially handling Super Bowl hangovers, but especially with the Chiefs, I don't see them falling to 0-2 to start the season. I think they come back with the vengeance. I'll take them to cover the spread. Eagles are favored at 1.5. I think this comes down to a field goal by Harrison Butker, but ultimately, I'll take the Chiefs to win in a close game.
Yeah, the problem is like who do you think is better, the Eagles offense or the Chargers offense?
Mm, that's a good Eagles for sure.
Yeah, Eagles, and then the Chiefs defense just didn't look very mobile last week. They looked apathetic, and then you have Jalen Carter coming back after spitting on Dak Prescott, so he's going to be fired up in this game. So I think the Eagles are going to have a tremendous show out where typically you don't want to lose a Super Bowl rematch. You want to say that it wasn't a fluke. So I think the Eagles are actually going to win this game. I think the Chiefs are going to struggle out of the gate, similar to how the Patriots would and fall to 0-2. It's not necessarily a big deal for them because they have the experience to get out of it. I just don't see them suddenly snapping out of whatever funk they were in versus the Chargers last year, where Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, now Jahan Dotson playing incredible. And then we forgot to mention that the Eagles now added Tank Bigsby. He was
Yes.
the life of the Jaguars offense, and he was really the only consistent player for them outside of BTJ for them. So now you have the Eagles with another running back added to that stable to take pressure off of Saquon Barkley. I just think the Eagles at this point are a more well-oiled machine than the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are going to have a rough couple weeks while waiting for Rashee Rice to come back.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think I'll take the Chiefs in this game, but I think those are valid points. But I think this is a game that should be on prime time. The Sunday night game is as Falcons and Vikings, which I think will still be exciting. Vikings are favored at 3.5. I'm going to take the Falcons in this game. I really liked what I saw from Michael Penix. I like what I saw from Bijan as well. I think their defense made some big stops against the Bucs as well. Vikings, ultimately JJ McCarthy did come back with the vengeance, but he still struggled mightily. I think it's going to be an up and down season to get started for JJ McCarthy. I like the Falcons in this game. I think they cover the spread. They win this game, and they move to 1-1.
Yeah, I definitely think that this will be a fun game and it'll be competitive, but I will go with the Falcons as well. I like a lot what I've seen from Michael Penix. This is going to be a battle of the quarterbacks from last year, and we're slowly going to see teams really question Caleb Williams because if Jaden Daniels has an incredible battle on Thursday Night Football with Jordan Love, and then we have an amazing battle on Sunday Night Football on prime time for everyone to see with Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy after they just saw Caleb Williams meltdown on national television with the Chicago Bears and then maybe lose to the Lions again. What is the conversation going to be in week 2? Like, why was Caleb Williams going to be the number 1 pick overall? So I think JJ McCarthy is going to be good for the Vikings, especially with how good Sam Darnold was last year. Yeah, shout out to Chance Vikings fans. There's not too many of you out there, so hold strong. You'll get to the Super Bowl eventually. I believe this team will eventually have a breakthrough with Kevin O'Connell. He's a good coach.
Yeah, he's a great coach. Shout out Chance. Thanks for tuning into the show.
Shout
out to them. I'll take the Falcons. And then the most annoying thing that the NFL does every single year is they have 2 Monday night games. I'll give them somewhat credit in this game. At least they have the time difference, right? They have a 4 o'clock game for the West Coast and a 7 o'clock game. So in this case, 7 o'clock and 10 p.m. for the East Coast viewers. But first game is Texans and Bucks. Houston's favored at 2.5, over under a 42.5. I like the Bucks in this game. I think they have a lot more grit. Texans, I think, are still figuring it out offensively as well. But ultimately, this is going to be a tough, gritty game. I don't think it's going to be quite reminiscent of what we saw with the Rams game, but I do think this could be somewhere where maybe we see like a 21-17 type game.
Yeah, I just think that the Bucks are a more cohesive unit right now, where the Texans' offensive line is still a problem, especially in that game where you're only able to generate 9 points, and we've now seen C.J. Stroud start out slow in back-to-back years. So the Texans just seem like one of those regular season teams that's going to be inconsistent. They're going to have their ups and downs. Where Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield has consistently been putting up numbers. You have Mike Evans trying to get the record, I believe, for consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and Bucky Irving playing well, as well as their defense making some big stops. So I do think they're going to win on Monday Night Football. So give me the Bucks, and then obviously they'll cover that 2.5-point spread.
Perfect. And then the late night game, a lot of these people will probably not watch this game, but the 10 p.m. Monday Night Football game, the double feature that nobody asked for, but we have Chargers and Raiders in Las Vegas. After what I saw with the Chargers in week 1, I have a lot of faith in them. Justin Herbert has this new swag with the Madison beer, sipping on that IPA. So I'll take Justin Herbert and the Chargers to beat the Raiders here, cover their 3.5-point spread. I'm impressed with what I saw from them. I think we'll start to see Amarian Hampton get going with them, Lad McConkey, and if Quentin Johnson can catch footballs outside, if he can catch footballs outside of America, maybe, and Vegas, kind of a foreign land in America, maybe magic, maybe lightning strikes twice.
Yeah, the problem is you don't want Quentin Johnson to be good in the regular season because he's not reliable in the playoffs. We saw him absolutely disappear versus the Texans, and now if you have this nice thing, it's kind of if you have a vice where it's nice in the moment, but eventually maybe it's going to give you cancer, maybe it's going to drain your finances and come back in a bad way. At some point, you're going to have to come to terms with it, even if it's good in the moment, which is kind of what Quentin Johnson is, where, yeah, sure, you can rely on him in the regular season, but it's also going to make the Chargers complacent. And I will go with the Raiders to get the upset in this one because you had a good game versus the New England Patriots last week. And I think the Chargers, coming off a big game, are going to have some ups and downs, and the Raiders are going to look really good earlier in the season and then have some struggles here. But Brock Bowers, Ashton Gentry, you still have some good pieces on that offense. So I can definitely see the Raiders pulling off the upset. So I'm going with the Raiders on this one, especially Monday Night Football. Weird things happen.
Weird things do happen early on in the season. Plus, you know what? The Raiders played well. Geno Smith has been streaky for them. And, Brock Bowers, best tight end in football. So I think, this is going to be a high-scoring game. That's my prediction here. So I'm excited to see how this pans out. And Chance, thanks for tuning into our show. Make sure to subscribe.
That Kirk C. DNA.
Absolutely. I like this guy. Chance, I'm a fan of you. I hope you're a fan of us. But we've been previewed for week 2. We've also covered all of the games in week 1. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. We do appreciate the support. Most importantly of all, stay brick.